was dead and not me. Oh, I felt a little sorry for him, sure. But mostly I felt like gloating. How lucky I am. I'm still alive. If Philip were still alive, I thought, he wouldn't begrudge me this feeling. He had believed in pursuing victory with ruthless glee. He had fancied himself a Nietzschean. All this came rushing back to me, all the dumb things he'd said and believed. Once, I'd almost forgotten. He had taken credit for me. "I made you," he'd said, winking, but I could see he wanted to be serious. He cocked his head as if to ask, "Don't you think?" I'd humored him. "Sure," I said. "Of course." My main quarrel with Philip had been regarding the nature of humanity. To put it simply, I'd believed in goodness, and he in the opposite. Not exactly in evil, even Philip was not so simple, but that morality and its various manifestations was a scam. It had been revealed to Philip during an acid trip that the true nature of things lay in their dying, in the trees and in the dirt, in the flesh on his own hands. Philip saw cells losing form and decaying, maggots and worms nibbling at the edges of things and bursting from their cores. He could not unsee this vision. Even when he was stone-cold sober, it would ambush him. Once, when we were fucking, he'd looked into my face as he was coming and saw my eyes pop out, dangling from their sockets, and the edges of my mouth rotting. Philip always kept his eyes wide open while fucking. Philip's visions played in my head like a warning reel. For years, I feared altering my sight. I accepted the tap on my tongue only much later, when I was altered already, suffering from boredom and invincibility. I braced for death. But I saw forms shimmering beyond their boundaries, every rock and plant and breath of wind vibrating with life. Colors and shapes extended their hands to make themselves known to me. "Hello, I am blue. Hello, I am a line." "Oh," Philip would have said. "Your feelings," he had said often, with disdain, of my need for beauty. He'd called it my great weakness. "Your moral failing," he'd said, "as a person and as an artist." We were trying to be artists. We were very young and foolish. All of us were, but Philip and I were the worst. We lived in the same 2-story house in the southwest quadrant of the city, with the rest of the young Americans. Philip was rich, and I was too, though once I had been poor. Young, American, idealistic, we'd come to the island to take classes at the National University, which in every department culminated in theoretical forms of utopianism. Theories the nation believed it was realizing in practice. Really, we were enacting a shared adventure of poverty, living as the locals lived, but with our reserves of cash and our promised escape. At the end of term, our special visas would expire, and a plane would shuttle us back to America. The certainty of our departure transformed what should have been tedious into experiences of meaning. The thick heat, the crumbling infrastructure, the food and power shortages. I had opted out of the special classes in English created for the Americans. Instead, I populated my schedule with punishing courses in which I was the only foreigner. Because I'd been poor, and because I had not always been American, I believed I was there for different reasons than the rest. To my disappointment, I was not the only American in theory and practice of art. I walked into the classroom and saw Philip slumped in the back row. I had avoided him in the house, and I avoided him here easily. Boys like Philip never noticed me. I took pride in disappearing. My skin had darkened under the island sun, and a childhood of foreignness had taught me how to become invisible, picking up ways of movement and speech unfamiliar to me. I wore the local mannerisms so successfully that one day, on a teaching rampage, the professor called on me. "What does Nietzsche say is the difference between music and other forms of art?" He bellowed.